Hey everyone, welcome back to the Daily Signal. Today we are doing something a bit different and a lot more practical. In the next few minutes, you will learn exactly how hackers choose their victims and the single, simple control that can stop about 80% of attacks before they even begin. Sounds bold? Well, stick with me because what you will hear today is not theory. It's the same logic real attackers use when deciding who to eat next. We'll walk through how they think, why your industry might be next, and what you can fix this week to make them move on. Alright, ready? Let's then jump in and find out who's actually coming after your company and why. Alright, then let's start mapping the battlefield. Every hacker, from the lone ransomware kid to a full-on nation state, picks targets based on one simple rule: value versus effort. If the data is worth a lot and the defenses look weak, you are on the list. Here's how it usually breaks down. Banks and retailers, they hold money and customer data, which is a gold mine for cybercriminals. Hospitals and pharma companies, they've got medical records and research that can be sold or stolen for leverage. Manufacturers and tech firms, well, they are sitting on blueprints and source code that foreign actors crave. Energy and transport, one word: chaos. Taking them down makes headlines, and that's power. Governments and telecoms, that's espionage territory, the ultimate prize for nation states. So, no matter where you work, there's a version of you on someone's radar. But here's the twist. Most companies still think they are too small or too boring to be attacked. That's exactly the blind spot attackers love. At the end of this video, I'll show you the one control that closes that blind spot. And it's probably something you already have, just not using it right. Stick around and in the next slide we'll trace the real motive behind all of this. And yes, it's almost always the same one. They come for one of four things. And once you see the pattern, their choices stop looking random. First, cash. Criminals and ransomware gangs target finance, retail, payment systems because that data converts to money fast. Card numbers, bank access, payroll. If your systems let them steal funds or lock up billing, you are a priority. Second, intellectual property. Tech, manufacturing, and pharma hold designs, source code, and formulas. States and industrial spies want that. It shortcuts years of R&D. That's not drama, it's pure economic advantage. Third, intelligence. Governments and telecoms are targeted for metadata, call detail records or policy files. Nation-state actors quietly map who talks to whom and when. That's power in negotiations and conflict. Fourth, leverage through downtime. Hospitals, utilities, and transport are valuable because disruption forces decisions. Lock a hospital's EMR or a port's scheduling system, and pressure to pay or capitulate skyrockets. So, what does this mean for you? Two quick implications. Protect what prints money and what gives advantage. Assume data will be turned into cash or leverage, and prioritize accordingly, of course. Small reward. Later, I'll show you a simple, practical way to harden the first two categories in under a week, and it stops most first-stage attacks. Tell me in the comment which motive worries you the most. Is it money, IP, intel, or downtime? And I'll pin the one sentence defense should start with. Alright, so we know why the target. Now let's talk about how they actually get in. And here's the surprising part. Almost every breach starts with something you already know about, but underestimate. First move, number one, is phishing. That email pretending to be your IT team or your supplier. All it takes is one click on a fake invoice or a login page and boom, credentials stolen, sessions hijacked. Move 2, valid accounts. This one's sneaky. Attackers don't always hack in anymore. They just log in using real usernames and passwords they bought or phished. Watch for impossible travel, new MFA devices, or logins from weird SNS. That's your early alarm bell. Move 3. Exploiting public apps. Those customer portals, VPNs, or exposed RDPs that haven't been patched since the last update that wasn't urgent. Most of the big breaches we have investigated in the last year started exactly like that. And finally, remote access abuse. Unsecured RDP or VPN access. Attackers scan for it 24/7, then brute force weak passwords or exploit outdated firmware. Here's your gold coin for this slide. If you block legacy authentication and enforce phishing-resistant MFA, you instantly eliminate over 4 out of 5 successful entries. Seriously, you have seen it across hundreds of incidents. Next up, we'll see what happens after they're in. The patterns that tell you exactly which kind of attacker you are actually dealing with. So what happens after they get in? Every attacker leaves a fingerprint. And if you know how to read it, you can tell who you're dealing with before they even hit the headlines. Let's start with the finance and retail crowd. Once inside, they go straight for mailboxes and payment systems. They search inboxes for invoice, wire, or account details, then exfiltrate data over HTTPS using tools like rclone or Megasync. When you see mass email searches or compressed .7z files appearing on web servers, that's not an accident. That's a cash-motivated actor doing inventory. In healthcare, it's usually ransomware operators. They sneak in quietly, spend days mapping EHR folders, and then hit the big red button. If you suddenly notice your backups disappearing or shadow copies being deleted, you are seconds away from encryption. Now, manufacturing and energy, these guys are the hybrid threat. IT meets OT. They pivot from your office network into plant systems using RDP or WinRM. If your HMI workstations start getting new remote sessions at night, that's an early warning flare. And for tech, government, and telecom, it's espionage mode. They don't want noise, they want data. They hide in admin tools, query code records, pull source code, or implant backdoors in routers. When router configs start changing at 2 a.m., that's not just maintenance, that's surveillance. Here's the insight. Attackers repeat what works. If you spot these same few patterns, mailbox scraping, OT pivots, router tampering, you can classify the threat long before the ransomware note or data leak. Stick around because next we'll zoom into a few industries and talk about where you can win fast with simple defenses that actually work in the real world. So let's talk about where you can win fast, starting with the 2 industries that see attacks every single week: finance and retail, and healthcare and pharma. If you are in finance or retail, you're basically sitting on a vault full of temptation. card data, payment systems, payroll info, customer PII. Cyber criminals don't need to invent new tricks here. They just reuse the classics. They will hit you with business email compromise, fake invoices, clone vendor domains, or phishing for credentials. Then they go after checkout pages and POS systems, web skimmers that grab card numbers the moment customers hit pay. The quick wins: turn on phishing-resistant MFA for finance users, run integrity checks on your checkout pages, and monitor SQL error spikes. That's often the first sign of a skimmer injection. You can literally cut your risk in half with those 3 actions. Now, healthcare and pharma, different price, same hunger. Attackers want patient records and research data, and they know hospitals cannot afford downtime. They are betting you'll pay ransom just to keep operating. We have seen hospitals go from all good to systems offline in under 2 hours. The moves that work here are boring but effective. So restrict network access to your EHR systems, keep your backups offline and tested, and force MFA for vendor VPNs. And here's your gold coin for this slide: monitor for mass file exports at night, especially DCOM or CSV files. If you see that, someone's already staging data for theft. Comment below which sector you are mostly interested in: finance, retail, healthcare, and I'll pin the most common attack pattern we have seen for that industry. Next up, we'll look at the high impact, no room for error sectors. The ones where a single breach doesn't just cost money, it can shut down cities. Now we're stepping into the high impact zone. Industries where downtime doesn't just hurt profits, it stops the world. Manufacturing, energy, government, telecom, and transport. Let's start with manufacturing and energy. 2 words describe the risk: downtime, leverage. Attackers know if they freeze a production line or a grid control system, every minute costs a fortune. I would remind you here JLR breach recently. We have seen ransomware groups hit plants right before peak shifts when panic is guaranteed. The trick? Well, they sneak in through IT, usually an office laptop or a vulnerable VPN, and pivot into OT networks that they were never meant to be online. Your very best defense? Easy: segmentation. Keep IT and OT apart, like rival cousins at a wedding. Use jump servers with privileged access management and only allow signed engineering tools. If you suddenly see RDP connections hitting HMIs after midnight, disconnect, don't debate. Now, government, telecom, and transport, this is espionage country. Here, the attackers don't want your money, they want control, visibility, and intelligence. They slip implants into routers, abuse admin tiers, and query call detail records at odd hours. We once saw a 2 a.m. config change on a backbone router that turned out to be data mirroring for months. Your playbook? Well, tier your admin accounts, log every command on network gear, and monitor SS7 or BGP anomalies. Yes, those still happen. And don't forget help desks. SIEM swaps often start there, with social engineering, not hacking. Quick reality check: in both worlds, speed beats perfection. You don't need $1 million SOC, you just need to notice weird things faster than they do. In the next part, I'll share the one control that stops around 80% of these attacks cold. And it's something most companies already have, but rarely use right. Here it is then, the slide everyone waits for, the one control that blocks roughly 80% of successful attacks. And no, It's not a fancy new AI tool or $1 million product. It's just phishing resistant MFA paired with a smart conditional access policy. That's it. Simple, boring, and ridiculously effective. Most breaches start with valid credentials. Attackers don't hack in anymore. They log in. They phish, buy, or reuse passwords, then stroll right through the front door. If you shut the door properly, you take away their easiest win. And here's how to do it right. Turn off legacy authentication, those outdated login protocols that ignore MFA completely. Set conditional access, so any login from a new device, new ASN, or risky location triggers extra verification. Add just-in-time admin access, so elevated privileges only exist when someone actually needs them. We have seen this combo cut real-world incident rates by 4 out of 5 across multiple industries. It's like locking your house and adding motion sensors. Simple, layered, effective. If you'll double check your MFA setup this week, comment checked below. I'll pin a quick cheat sheet with 5 detection rules you can add in minutes. And don't go anywhere. Next up, I'll give you some copy-paste detection you can drop straight into your SIEM to catch the rest of that 20%. Alright, let's get practical then. Here are the tiny detections that make a huge difference. There are things you can literally copy and paste into your SIEM or EDR today. Start with this one. First time MFA device plus impossible travel within 6 hours. So, explanation. If a user logs in from London and then from Singapore right after, that's not a red flag, that's a parade. Pull it from your IDP logs using fields like device ID and IPASN. Next, mailbox searches by service accounts. If an automation account suddenly runs keyword searches like wire or invoice, someone's snooping. Check your Office 365 audit logs for the operation equal search pattern. Third, the web service spawning archivers. If your web app process, so w3, wp.exe, php-fpm, and Nginx, suddenly creates 7z or rar file, that's data staging before exfiltration. That single rule has caught more than one breach in progress. Fourth, mass SharePoint downloads by human browsers. Look at the user agent string in your proxy or MDM logs. When a Chrome user agent UA pulls gigabytes at once, that's not collaboration, that's collection. And last, new driver installs without changed tickets. Monitor Sysmon Event ID 6. Malicious drivers are a comeback trend in persistence. None of these detections are fancy, but together they are close, and they close that 20% gap left after the MFA. They are quick wins you can test this week, and they'll tell you if someone's already exploring your network. Up next, we'll pull all this together into a 4-week roadmap you can actually follow. No theory, just sequence and results. So, time to turn all this into action. Here's your 4-week game plan to lock down your environment and catch threats before they grow teeth. Week 0, today. Don't wait for approvals or projects. Just do it. Enforce MFA everywhere, block legacy authentication, and deploy the 5 detections from the last slide. That alone gives you the biggest security leap you can make this month. Week 1, external cleanup. Find every exposed surface, VPNs, RDPs, old web apps, and patch or shut them down. If it's not needed, kill it. Also, put your WAF in front of every login and checkout page. You will instantly stop the easiest scanning attacks. Week 2, admin control. Separate your Tier 0 and Tier 1 accounts. rotate break glass credentials, and enable just-in-time access for admin roles. No one should have standing admin rights anymore. That era is over. Week 3. Protect the crown jewels. Map where your critical data actually lives, PII, PHI, source code, trade secrets. Build a DLP allow list and alert on anything moving outside of it. If you don't know where your gold is, you cannot guard it. For week, test and drill. Run a simulated phishing or initial access exercise. See what breaks, fix what fails, and repeat it every quarter. It's not about perfection, it's about practice. Follow that plan and you will outpace 90% of organizations still reacting instead of preparing. And don't forget, drop a done in the comments when you finish week 0. And that's a wrap, everyone. You now know how hackers really choose their victims, why your industry might be next, and the simple steps that protect about 80% of companies from becoming tomorrow's headline. If you have made it this far, you are already ahead of most teams out there, because awareness plus action is what really changes the game. Now, before you go, here's what I would like you to do next. Drop checked in the comments if you have enabled or reviewed your MFA setup. If you have already implemented one of the detection from today, comment done. Let's show how fast this community moves. And of course, like this video if it helped you see things differently. Subscribe for your next week's playbook. I've got something very wild coming for you. Remember, cybersecurity is not about fear, it's about control. Every move you make to harden your defenses forces attackers to move on. I'm Max, Point Break Security. Thanks for watching, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next one.